Hey, and welcome back to the Felix Clinic. My name is Madeline, and welcome back to another program. And we're going to talk today about healing. And I've kind of had this, what healing my own things, in my own life. Lighting's okay. Healing the things in my own life. I've kind of come across. Absolutely love the way this looks. I've actually come across something which I want to share. So I've kind of come across the notion that healing is organic. And what I mean by this is I think that when you heal from something, whether it's mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, I think the results should be organic. And then that makes you sort of think, should the treatment be coming from an organic place as well? So, where do I begin? So, in the health community, there's like a lot of talk about trauma and how trauma works and where it comes from. And the thing with trauma and the way that it expresses itself through PTSD is it's inherently non-organic, right? When we have these traumatic symptoms years after, and these come out in our bodies, and they come out in certain ways. They come out in our bodies, they can come out in our emotional lives, and our spiritual connections as well, I believe. That is a product of the trauma, and trauma can come in so many different ways, and if you've done a bit of reading on this, you'll know what I mean, but I'll explain. So, also there's quite an old-fashioned view, I think, that trauma, or maybe a narrative in some parts of society, that trauma could be, if you were in the war, or if you had one specific experience. But trauma can come out in many ways, and it's really defined by the individual, right, who goes through it. And there's also therapies in which you're able to kind of pick out where the trauma is if you've, say, blocked it out and stuff like that. And then there's also the things like collective trauma, that a country or a place goes through. But, the way trauma works is that if there's an imprint of trauma in you, then that can produce results in certain ways. So if we think about it emotionally, if you have an imprint of trauma in your brain, kind of emotionally, then say when it comes to relationships, and moving forward in relationships, you may act in a way which is product of that trauma, and which is kind of that trauma expressing itself, because it's recognizing a certain part of your situation and then producing a certain outlook. And to just say this in simple terms, say if you're traumatized in a relationship, someone cheats on you, in the next relationship, you might find it hard to trust someone, right? So things like that. I'm not an expert on trauma, but what I'm saying is, my whole point here is the results aren't organic, When a baby comes into the world and it's organic, it's just been born completely of the human race, it will enter a relationship in an organic way. It will think that everything will be lovely and all of that. And it won't even have that mental process. It will just enter in with an organic mindset. And then, with the example of relationships that I'm using, that organic mindset and that organic approach is lost. So then when people are able to have trauma therapies and recover, they're becoming this organic person again. And that's really what I'm trying to get across. And that's because the essence of trauma is it has a way of kind of going through your body, going through your mind, your neural pathways, and kind of shifting things a little bit. But the beauty of that is that underneath all of this, you have your essence, and you have like the person in your soul. And you know that doesn't define you. And that's why health and healing is so special, because it's the medium through which we're able to say, hey, I've been through this, but it doesn't define me. And I want to be me. I want to be the expression of who I know I can be. You know, so many people write in books about how trauma stops people from living in the moment, stops people from trying to get the light in again, stops people from living life to the fullest because they're a bit kind of in gridlock, you know? And yeah, I think that's what we should be focusing in on with healing. And it's not just about the mind, I think it's about the body too. I think we can really make waves in the industry if we start looking at that and not being woo-woo about it, but using it as a factor and as a little part of the process, you know. Because people are more than a one-trick fits all. You know, people are expressions of themselves. And, you know, we need to see people for their originality and their potential and not just a condition. Because I think, you know, everyone has their own essence. My essence and my soul, I mean, ultimately, I guess we're all one, is not going to be the same as Jason down the street. And that's why healing should be organic. And what I mean by organic is that it's about you and who you are and who you could be and who you know you can be and you want to be. You're not defined by what you've been through. You're not defined by, you know, the